guys, can we stop canceling people for things that they did 10 years ago? Like, this is something that's been infuriating me on the internet recently. And I think it's one of these trends now that people are looking things up and from people that they did 10 years ago and bringing it up to say that they're racist, they're sexist, they're homophobic, they're this, they're that. And I have a few things that I want to say about that, because I feel like this is becoming a big societal toxic trait right now, because I feel as though, right, we've lost, and I watched a really good documentary on YouTube a while ago that talked about this, and when I see stuff like this, it reminds me, and it was talking about, in this documentary, I wish I could remember what it was, but the woman in this documentary was talking about how we can no longer have journeys on YouTube anymore. Like, there's no, on YouTube, on social media, people are no longer allowed to have a journey. And this is something I've thought about myself having a channel, because obviously I have a lot of videos on my channel now, and some of my older videos, like, my feelings, my thoughts, my opinions have evolved, so sometimes I'm like, do I need to, like, it's almost like, do I need to, like, delete all my videos and, like, start again? Do I need to this? And I don't want to do that, because I feel like the beauty of my channel and the beauty of how I try to do my videos is take you guys on the journey with me. So you see, like, where my thoughts started, where they ended. That's even why, like, in a lot of my when I do new series and I tend to make a video with my initial thoughts and so on and so forth, not necessarily having done every single bit of research yet, to give you guys my ideas, so you can see, like, where I started, what I then discovered, how my feelings have changed, how I evolve, etc, etc, and I think that's the kind of, and in a lot of ways, I guess I was inspired by that, because I feel like a journey is a realistic way. That's how we are in life. We're a work in progress. We're never going to be perfect at a certain place. And I think going back 10 years and looking at what somebody says or said and kind of using that as a way to evaluate who they are is very problematic, because, and I'm going to talk separately in a video about the 4 different types of racism, so please check that video out. But sometimes I feel like we're just putting so much pressure on people that's unrealistic, because people come from different backgrounds and different understandings. I was telling somebody that I know literally yesterday that a girl that I went to school with in secondary school, which, if you don't know, in the UK, secondary school is when you're aged like 10, 11 to 16, right? One of these girls in my school, she was white, her parents were racist, and she just said it. She was like, look, my parents are racist, to the extent where, like, she wasn't even she would have, like, parties, and she wasn't even necessarily allowed to actually have black people at her party. Like, this is not the 1950s, this is not the 1800s, this is like when I was at school, okay, guys? I'm a spring chicken, okay? So for her coming from that kind of background, right, let's say that and mind you, I will just say, not to make the classic cringy, like, oh, well, I have a black friend, but I don't believe was racist. She has a lot of her long life friends. She's maintained friendships with people who are people of color. Me and her were very cool, actually. She was kind of embarrassed about the situation, anyway, but she was open about it, and so, social media today could take that in such a wrong way. They could be like, oh, we found out that 10 years ago, your parents wouldn't let black people come to your house. You're racist. Like, come on, man, come on. And not to mention that, what about the fact that that's just where she grew up from? We need to give people the opportunity to learn. Like, obviously, like I said with her, she was already like, okay, guys, this is crazy, but this is my situation. But sometimes people are coming from those backgrounds. Sometimes it's the parents, it's the elders, it's the community, the culture that they grew up in that feels that way, that believes that way. So I feel like we need to have grace for people to understand that, like, they just might need a little bit of help and understanding. Also, a lot of the times, I think people on their journeys actually just learn certain things. I know for myself, throughout my life, have had certain biases, if you will, in my mind about certain different groups of people. And it was never from a place of hatred. Sometimes it was from a cultural perspective. Sometimes it was things I heard older people around me in certain spaces saying, And so as I've had to grow as an adult, I check myself constantly. I'm like, oh yeah, that thing that I thought, and all of that stuff. Or I take opportunities to learn about different cultures. Like, I love, like, food, as I talk about all the time. That's one of my favorite ways to learn about other cultures. Probably my favorite way to learn about other cultures is food, because you learn so much from like a dish that's made in a particular country, you can learn so much about that country, about that culture and those kinds of people. And I feel like if you make food that I like, you're my people. So that's why shout out to the Koreans, shout out to my Koreans. If you're South Korean, I want to have, if there's anybody who watched my video who's in South Korea, shout me out, because South Koreans are my long lost brothers and sisters. Okay, I'm just gonna say that now, and I base that on food, because the food they be making over there, I'm telling you guys, when I first had Korean barbecue, I was like, these are my people. This is everything that I ever wanted in an eating situation. Okay, so you know what I mean? And so even in me saying that, right, I might in the past, right, let's say in another time, maybe not necessarily be thinking like, oh, I don't know, somebody could say something to me about Koreans, like, I don't know, Koreans are blah, 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 right? And I might have a particular perspective on them, right? But obviously me being in that, no one ever did that anyway. I just so discovered that, oh my gosh, Koreans are like, they make food that I like. And I watch a lot of Korean YouTubers who I love, who cook food, like food that I like, and they inspire my food, you know? And so it's all a journey, right? It's all a journey, but we have to be allowing people to grow and to learn and to evolve, because sometimes you never know where somebody comes from. If somebody's never been somewhere, this is why, like, I even have an issue with certain places, and this happens in the UK, and I really don't like it. And I don't like this in general, where you have like in a particular country, and when you're in a particular country, and then there's another country group of people who have like claimed a whole area, right? And even the people from that actual original country would feel uncomfortable going into that area, because that area is like a little version of another country. Now, I'm not mentioning any places that I think do that, because I don't want people to think I'm being racist, okay? But I think when you are segregating people, right, I'll speak from a Black perspective, right? One of the reasons I've dialed down my fighting for Black justice and so on and so forth, not that I don't still fight for those things, but I fight in a different way, in a more proactive, let me just make the changes that I want to see, rather than complaining and going along with things that don't make sense, right? Is because I realized that a lot of the Black community today, and I'm speaking not because I'm attacking them specifically, but because I can speak because I am a member, just making that clear. I've identified issues in many groups, is because I've realized that a lot of things, like, it was, for example, perfect example was like the N-word thing, right? It was like, and this is one of the reasons why I don't use the N-word anymore, because I realized that you want to make music where you use the N-word, but then you don't want people from other cultures to use the N-word, but then you want to be upset when your music isn't as popular than other cultures, but then in your concerts and at your things, people are using, you yourself are using the N-word. So it's like, how do you expect to get support when you're not letting people in? Do you get what I mean? And when I'm saying in, I'm not saying they get to, like, you know, start, you know, doing blackface or blackfishing and stuff. I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm saying that if you can't complain to me if you've got a song using the N-word, right? Because people sing along to music. When you have songs that you like, you sing along, you know all the words, especially if you go to concerts, festivals, people are joining in, they're singing along, right? Or making TikToks. This is how you gain exposure, right? And everything. People want to sing back the lyrics, but if you're saying those words, you don't want them to say that, that's creating a barrier. That's actually creating a barrier. If you're saying, we don't want you to do this because this is only for this culture, it's creating a barrier. So then my question goes, is it that you're not succeeding? Do you see what I mean? I'm like, is it that we're not succeeding because of racism, or is it because now we're just not even letting people in, you know? And so I think when we discuss this type of stuff, we have to understand that we all are a work in progress, and we all need to be realistic. You know, sometimes the way that people are, even in people in those cultures, like I said, I came from that kind of mentality of like, we get to do this, but you don't get to do that, but then we want to complain. It doesn't add up, right? That's why I've moved away from that. And so people need to be obviously be understanding of that, but we also need to be understanding of the fact that, like, look, people come from different upbringings. I remember I had two housemates, both of them were white. I was living, me and these two other housemates, and I remember both of my housemates telling me about like the places where they were from, they weren't from the UK. The places where they were from, they were telling me that like one of them was from a town that was heavily racist. Another one of them was from like the main area they were from wasn't racist, but they were telling me that there were real racist areas in the country that they're from, right? And so again, somebody coming out from there and then say moving to the UK, they may have to go on a journey, you know, to remove all this that they had on their mind previously about a particular race, gender, this, that, you know what I mean? And we have to be okay with that. You know, sometimes people are doing things in youth as well. Like sometimes people looking back at things that people said when they were like 16, 18. Like, I'm like, look, guys, come on now. They were children. People have said stuff. People say stuff they don't mean. People say stuff they don't understand. You know, and I feel like a lot of people, they could have said something else. It would have been from the same energy, right? So they weren't actually trying to be racist or sexist or homophobic or whatever, right? But they just used a word that they thought was funny, right? But because of the charged reality that we live in today, where everybody's triggered so much by every single little thing, it doesn't matter their intention. And if they even bother to try and start talking about their intention, if they even try to explain, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter, you should have known, you did that. Come on, guys. Let's stop canceling people for things they did 10 years ago. Okay? They might know better now. Let's give them that opportunity. Let's say, you know what, maybe you actually understand now, you know, that wasn't great. Let's have it, like, why is not, and this is the other thing I don't understand, right? Why is our first choice not to first of all be like, you know what, why did you say that at that time? And believe people. Because you know what, I think so many people who need help actually understanding, because I'll tell you something, guys. I've lived in 3 countries in my lifetime, okay? I've lived in 3 countries, on 3 different continents, technically 3 different continents, right? And I still feel so much like I need to be educated about other cultures and understand certain things that I don't understand, okay? So it's not a case of like people need to educate themselves. No, there's a level that we need to be prepared to. This is why, again, going back to my food example, this is why I love watching videos online about chefs cooking and explaining, because chefs will explain. Back where I come from in my country, we cook it like this because of this and this. And they're breaking down to you the culture so that you understand where that comes from, you know? And it's helping you as the consumer, as the person, to understand. And then you can actually be respectful towards the culture. That's why people with cooking and stuff, you can be respectful towards the culture when you understand, because they're breaking down to, you know, this is how we do it and this is how you can honor us, as opposed to, you know, dishonoring the culture, etc., etc. You know, and then everybody can be happy and can appreciate it. And I just think, like, how cool would it be, like, you being in a house, having like all the 5 houses around you, you're all from 5 different places all over the world, completely different, and then like every like week you guys all have a dinner party, and one of you always cooks for everybody. Like, how cool is that? And you like rotate. That sounds amazing, you know. And that's a great way for us. Those are the types of things we should be focusing on, and we should be asking people questions, because I think sometimes people didn't think. Genuinely, I think sometimes, just as much as somebody said something, you know, homophobic, they could have just as easily just said another word that people used at the time that like was just a dumb word that people were using, you know, because some of the time it's just dumb words that people are using, right? But we're making a big kerfuffle, or they're seeking attention. Like, people in their lives, especially people, do provocative things to get attention. Like, I was watching this video with my brother where they were talking about, I think it was Logan Paul or Jake Paul, whichever one is the older one. I think it's the older one, but one of them anyway. The one who now has a podcast anyway. I hope both of them don't. But anyway, the one who now has a podcast, and on there he was saying, you know, or on somewhere else, I think he was saying how, you know, now that he's older, he was opening up that a lot of things he did to be provocative because he thought it would draw attention. And so people doing things to be provocative to draw attention, it doesn't necessarily mean that's who they are, that's what they believe. You know, sometimes, and it also depends on like where they're at as a person, how they feel. And this is why I'm going to do the video talking about the 4 types of racism, because sometimes hatred doesn't always come from like a superiority thing. Like, we think we're better, you're this, you're that, right? Sometimes there's jealousy. Sometimes people are actually jealous of you in a certain way, and that's why they're showing hate towards you, and that's why they're, you know, being, you know, racist or whatever. You know, and not to say that it makes what they're doing any different, but it means our approach can be different, you know, and the solutions are also different, you know, for those people. And so that's why I just feel like at this stage, we need to go back to allowing people to just have a journey. They can have a journey from A to B. Okay, I started like this, now I'm here. Do you know what I mean? Back then, you know, like, I feel like we evolve as human beings, at least we should, so quickly. And, you know, even me, the me of 2 years ago, I look at like, oh my gosh, what the heck, man? Let alone the me of 10 years ago. right? And I want it to be that way, and it should be for people because it shows growth. And I feel like that's more what we should be paying attention to. We should be paying attention to the fact that not canceling people forever. You know, we just cancel people now and it's like, you're done. No one wants to hear from you now. Why? Maybe this was the opportunity that they needed, because we all come from such different places and backgrounds. It's crazy to me that this is the way that we think in this day and age. Really, it is. We're so overly sensitive. We really are. You could live next door to somebody and in the exact same. Do you know what, guys? Even me, I have two siblings, right? Two siblings. We all come from the same two parents, right? We have completely different experiences and understandings of the world in a lot of ways, right? And so even in that version of things, is it what's gonna make more sense? Me getting upset at my siblings if we don't see eye to eye, or me working with them and saying, you know what, why do you think that? Where did you get that from? And then we can all grow together, and then we can all feel like we live in a safe environment. Because I feel like there's so many people being cancelled. There's people who don't even want to be out on social media anymore. I feel like a lot of artists and people and like athletes and famous people don't want to be out online anymore. They don't, because they don't want to be caught out for something from 10 years ago and be cancelled or whatever. You know, and a lot of people are just riding that wave of 10 years ago you did this and that. Like, I was watching this video that infuriated me, actually inspired this video today, of a girl that got cancelled. I wish I could remember her name. And, you know, people were like criticizing how she was going about responding to this. And the whole reason it came out is because one of her friends or ex-friends who was jealous decided to expose this stuff about her from the past, as jealous people do, trying to destroy your name, right? And people weren't happy with how she responded. And I'm like, being harsh is not going to help. Do you know what I mean? It's like the same thing like with a child. You just barking at a child every time they do something wrong, they're not going to learn how to do the right thing. They're going to learn how to do the right thing when you stop and you talk to them in a calm manner and you say, what is going on? You know, sometimes I think we as adults, we in the world, we just need to talk to each other like we're children who need to learn. Because in a lot of areas of our lives, we are children in that sense. Do you know what I mean? That need to learn, that need somebody to have grace for us and explain, you know, and be understanding and be forgiving, you know, and allow us to have an honest journey. Otherwise, I'm telling you, the way that we're going, people are going to stop being on social media, and you're going to have a very small amount of people like me who don't care because I got Jesus. And it's only God's opinion who I'm caring about at the end of the day. And that's my aim, to only care about his opinion, right? And I'm prepared to be cancelled before I even made my first video, you know, since I did my whole reboot thing. So, you know, we're going to not even be able to have people online. And again, in this documentary that I was watching, they were talking about how a lot of YouTubers who used to be big on YouTube, people who were there from like 12 years ago, whatever, are no longer on there purely because of all this cancelling stuff of people going back 10 years. And it's like, really, guys, can we not just let people grow? Can we, even if somebody does something wrong today, can we not be forgiving? Can we not be understanding? Can we not, first of all, say, why did you do that? Okay, you know, and the thing is, and that's why I feel, I'm not going to get into that anyway. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to ramble. I've been talking a lot anyways. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Of course, as always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're feeling the vibe, guys. I would love to have you here. I talk about lots of different things, not just what I'm talking about now, but this is one of my more like rant style videos, I guess. Don't really like to use that word, to be honest with you. Anyways, if you have enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Other than that, guys, God bless you all, and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.